First live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? This is Andrew Ball, co-host of Point to the Spot, a U.S.-based podcast, as always, focused on the world of football. I'm not Jack Kelly. He is back from an undisclosed location in Ripon, Wisconsin, but he's not joining us tonight. He has apparently better things to do with himself. But a man who has no better things to do than to join us on the air is Mr. Reed Hammond. Reed, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Don't know if we've talked about this on the pod before. I used to do a lot of landscaping in the off scholastic months because I learned a lot about Mao's China growing up, and I read a lot about Mao. And he would make university students work in the countryside, and I thought it kind of, I wanted that to bring that whole thing full circle. But I've since fallen to the bourgeois, and now I'm working in a pub. And I can tell you, I was doing landscaping around my folks' house yesterday, and I definitely feel sore over it. I'm glad I left.
You're on to bigger and better things, it sounds like.
I hope so.
And here at Point to the Spot, we would like to give all the fathers out there a shout out. Happy Father's Day to my dad, who is probably not going to be listening to this podcast, but shout out to you anyway, Dad. Also, it is Pride Month, and we have not done this, but we would like to wish a happy Pride Month to our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, asexual, allies, intersex, pansexual. Reed says I'm not coming in.
No, I'm saying just keep it going, keep rolling,
Well,
because it
gender
is
non-conforming,
plus, man.
Queer, questioning, wherever. Happy Pride Month. Hoping that you are having a safe and enjoyable existence. Really, it's a crazy world out there, but best wishes to the LGBTQ alphabet soup community this Pride Month. But we're not here to talk about social issues. Sometimes we are, but not today. Today, we're going to be talking about transfers, and not transfers in the normal way. We're not going to be discussing the latest rumors, which I believe is Chris Smalling to Tottenham, which is stupid. We're instead going to be talking about where you get those stupid rumors, and this is a brainchild of one Reed Hammond, so I'm going to let him kind of talk about this topic a little bit, and then I will jump in as need be. So Reed, share with our listeners your brilliant idea.
Yeah, guys. Everybody loves to, get those clicks on, kind of wild transfers. And as a West Ham fan, I have gone through a lot of them. We're linked to everybody because we're kind of a bubble club of, maybe one day we'll be something worth talking about. And so I have a very good nose for newspapers and outlets that are extraordinarily untrustworthy, and those that are both reputable and trustworthy and just worth your time. Because if you read every transfer rumor all summer, you'd lose your life in a terrible way. So we're just going to kind of guide you through a couple sources that we like, a couple sources that we find very trustworthy, that we've seen play out well in the past, and ones that, just don't read. We're going to talk about the Sun in a little bit, and don't read their back page. Don't read any of their pages. The Sun is a piece of shit.
No more needs to be said, I don't think, on that subject.
No. So cracking off, we'll go over a couple of the more reputable English sources. I have a couple Twitter accounts that I like from the French league that just kind of, give me a pulse on, the South Coast. So kicking off in England, let's start with what a lot of people would argue to be the gold standard of not only English transfer sources, but English journalism, the BBC. If you see the BBC reporting something, there's a fair good chance that it's going to come true, or at least at that moment it is true. Sky's similar to that. It's not as reliable in my eyes. That I've seen a lot of other sources report things, and then Sky kind of just pick up on it, and just put the blanket Sky sources tag on it, which for me is very dubious. I've seen those be very a very generous link. And a lot of times, especially with this new Ronaldo saga going on right now, it's very important to remember that a lot of times it's a lot of people talk about how agents put out stories. And especially when you saw the Ronaldo story break, you saw universally the same narrative from every major source. And it's because they got the same, to call it an ad copy is generous. Like that's basically what they got. From what I'm sure is a fax machine, because that's just like how weird the world is over there. So you just the BBC, for me, the BBC and the Guardian. If you see BBC or the Guardian reporting, it's nail on. You could maybe not bet the house, but bet a couple months of car payments on it. And then, kind of the tier below that is definitely probably Sky. For me, Sky. Andrew, what else? Do you have any, second tier, not quite perfect, but generally pretty reliable transfer sources that you want to toss in?
So my policy usually when it comes to transfer sources is to kind of just tune out a lot of the noise. I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about it just because like West Ham, Spurs are continually linked to pretty much everyone under the sun. So I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying too much because, I mean, a lot of the times it's just bunk. I agree with you. The BBC is the gold standard. I like Sky. I think the Guardian does okay. I mean, they're better than the tabloids, to be sure. My policy when it comes to American journalism, as to ascertaining whether not just a soccer story, but any story has legs, is to look at the very local outlets. Unfortunately, due to the nature of British quote-unquote journalism, that doesn't work as well. But I think in some instances, elsewhere in Europe that does, but even in England, I think like Birmingham has some reliable sources when it comes to stuff there, and Liverpool and Manchester occasionally as well.
Yeah, Manchester Evening News is generally more reliable than the Telegraph. For me, a good back of the hand policy is if you see the word daily in the title, it's probably wrong. Like it's probably just trying to get you to click on it or buy their paper or, because they need to churn out this stuff daily.
Well, I think not even looking at the outlet so much as like looking at what the story they're reporting is. Like the language is very important because a lot of the times it's like so-and-so is thought to be interested in, and like that, like
it can be, yeah, sure.
Like Vancouver Whitecaps are probably interested in Ronaldo.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean he's coming anytime.
Like
ever.
I'm thought to be interested in Rihanna, but like, is that gonna
That's
a much
happen? Better analogy.
Maybe not. You know what I mean?
And like, and do they have sourcing like very clear that they actually got it from someone? Because like, that goes a long way. And like, do they name their sources? Never usually in European football, but if they do, then that's a great thing. So I think that like the same things that people should be applying to news literacy for political news in the U.S. Be applying to your transfer news as well. Just like being very tuned into what they're actually saying, because a lot of the times when like you see a headline like about Manchester United being interested in Eric Dyer, it's like, well, yeah, interest does not equal a bid being made or even like anything approaching a formal inquiry. So I think that's more my general guidance and how I've remained sane. But I think that, Rita, you make good points about the outlets as well. So I cut you off. Finish your thought on England because I think you had something good going.
Yeah, and especially if you can find like for me, I am a little bit transfer crazy in the summer just because no footy, it's a little boring. Granted, this year we have the U21 Euros and I guess the Confederations Cup. Like like I work at a pub, so it's on in the background, so I'll probably know most of what happens. But not that it's not great. I do occupy a lot of my time keeping up in the transfer rumors, and especially when you're on Twitter, if you can find someone having a rumor, like reporting something and then linking it to a direct Twitter account. Like I know Antonio Ruiz is good for Spanish and Mexican La Liga, and then also a little bit of Leo Messi I've seen him report on, kind of weirdly, but I think it's just kind of because he has that Spanish language audience, and he's at Ruiz Antonio or Antonito. Sorry about that. I'll drop it in the show notes. I know Andy Mitten at Andy Mitten is a decent local-ish Manchester reporter. So like, if Andre Silva was linked to Manchester United at Transfer News Live, and I checked his Twitter account, he said nothing about it. Probably not. For me, actually, someone who I've paid a lot of time looking at is Mohamed Boufassi. He is a French language journalist in France, and he does a lot of really, really good transfer reporting. He's the most reliable French source. Like L'Equipe is a very major. That's not how you pronounce it. L'Equipe. L'Equipe is a very large French newspaper for sport. L'Equipe sports. So especially like the more like with exactly what Andrew was saying earlier, like the more local the coverage, the better. So like I trust L'Equipe's reporting on French transfers more than I do about so and so being linked to City. It's kind of that idea. I'll drop a couple Twitter handles in the show notes of people that I like and people that I definitely trust. And the kind of other side of the sword on this is ex West Ham employee who like is one of the craziest Twitter accounts that I've ever followed in my entire life. He's somewhere in between a mouthpiece for the club and someone who just like fucks up every transfer, because he's been the cause of a couple transfer hijacks at West Ham. He's been the cause of a couple price hikes for West Ham that granted, it's not that I want to live in a world without that kind of Twitter account, putting out information like that, but it's definitely it's a little bit harmful is what I'm trying to say. It's not super, like having perfect transfer transparency is not really what you want as a club. And it's definitely caused a lot of egg on face moments for West Ham.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what people have to be cognizant of is like, there's a reason why there are very few people in the know on transfers to begin with. Like, that's why I'm hesitant of people who say they have, like one Jack Kelly says and I'm not going to shit talk Jack because I think he does have good sources, but like, I'm very skeptical of people who say like that they have a cousin who has a brother who knows this person in Arsenal or Chelsea or West Ham or whoever. Because like the inner circle of people who actually know what's going on with transfers, I think, is very small. And just like that doesn't mean that person that isn't right sometimes, because that may be, but I just think that like, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that like I believe a transfers happen when I see the guy with the shirt, holding it up in the awkward photo with the manager. So like, and like, I don't know. I don't get too worked up about like being in the know or in the loop. And like, if you do, that's great. Good for you. Have fun. I think it's, it's transfers are a fun diversion to like immerse yourself in. I do it, but also like as a journalist, it kind of drives me nuts because like it's kind of just it's a rough approximation of what journalism actually is.
Yeah.
A few people I like. I think L'Equipe does a pretty good job for France. They have a weird hard-on for PSG.
Yes.
That's very weird. But besides that, they do a pretty good job. Also, Jonathan Johnson, Jonathan Johnson in France does a pretty good job with monitoring stuff, including Marseille, some of the other big French clubs. He's usually on top of his shit. For Germany, DW Sports, which is a branch of the German news outlet, does a pretty good job. They're kind of like the German BBC. Their reporters are pretty well sourced on Bundesliga transfers, which is nice. Miguel Delaney does a pretty good job for La Liga-based stuff. I think you just got to find the people who are in the know for the leagues and kind of like piece together the narratives that are going on out there instead of relying on big news outlets, international news outlets. Although I will say ESPN FC, when they do their own reporting, usually does a pretty good job.
Surprisingly good. You know what I mean?
But I think that's because they find the people who know the right leagues. Right? They don't have someone sitting in London or, wherever, just like doing their thing. They find the people who know the people in like the higher ups that know what's going down in Real Madrid or Dortmund or, Jeff Carlisle for MLS is fantastically well informed. They find the people on the ground. And that's, I think, if you do want to be really in the loop, you got to find the people. It takes some effort because like sometimes transfers break in really weird places. Like when Spurs brought Victor Wanyama, the news outlet that broke it was a Kenyan affiliate of a South African TV station. Like, sometimes it's just hard and, you got to do what you got to do. But I think that like for all news, but especially transfers, like the reason that places like ESPN FC do such a good job is because they do pick out the people on the ground. And I think that if you want to be, not saying you all have to be like me, but if you do want to like save yourself some heartache, picking out those people who can tell what's BS and what's not is usually a good strategy. But Reed, I'd be curious to hear who else are your go-tos?
No, the occasional peruse on, as far as like someone who aggregates finished transfers, like Transfer News Live, is like a big Twitter account that tweets a lot of transfer rumors, a lot of dubious reports, but they do generally also post almost every, not even major, but like even like down to the championship in England to pretty much every major league in Europe, they generally have a awkward photo of a man holding up a shirt,
which is nice because you can miss
which is nice to see because exactly.
Like, I miss stuff. I was like sometimes like, oh wait, that transfer happened like a week after it actually went through.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to have that. I don't
know. It's just something nice to peruse occasionally. But past that, I generally try to keep my head out of it as much as I can. Weirdly enough, something I wanted to point out that I had written down, Sky Italy is much more reliable than Sky generally.
Sky Germany too.
Keep that in mind. That. Yeah.
Which is weird. I don't know why.
Yeah. Just another like little heads up, and these are just like what's gotten us through most of the time. And like I'm sure Andrew's not a gambling man, and for legal purposes, neither am I. But there's definitely been a gentleman's wager on transfers once or twice in my life.
Only once or twice, though, right?
Once or twice, yeah, once or twice. So if that's your fancy, if that's your vice, hopefully this can help guide you and save you a bit of money at some point in your life. So just closing out, we'll have the sources that we really, really like in the show notes, and we'll kind of do our best to, like, I've been like in the production meeting before the show, Andrew said I could only say the I could only say the Sun 3 times, and this is my 3rd time saying it. And just like it's a bad newspaper. Like it's owned
Don't
by
read it for
it's owned by an Australian. Like I don't know what they're doing.
Don't read anything that's owned by Rupert Murdoch.
Just don't they're lying to you in every way, and like the completely fabricated transfer rumors that they put out is the most truthful thing they've ever done. Like that's all I'm gonna say on the matter. It's ridiculous.
So like parlor games I play now are just like looking at the completely made up transfer rumors and like finding the most funny ones. Because there's some real winners.
There's definitely some real winners.
So that all this being said, Reed, what are the actual transfers that have either happened that you like or that you are tracking that you think might happen that you think would be good deals?
I think AC Milan has done spectacularly well so far, and I think they will definitely cool off because like at what point, you know, they have 4 players already in that are 4 very good players, and I think once you get a little bit past that, you get into not only a little bit of silliness but also a bit of squad cohesion issue. I like Ronaldo's going to stay. I think that kind of goes beyond saying, like, we've seen this with Dani Alves, or not Dani Alves. We saw this with Neymar. We saw this with Messi. It's just to kind of put pressure on officials and get people to not, especially with Ronaldo being such a global brand, like people don't, like his PR agency does not want people talking about fraud charges. They want you to talk about, oh, where's he going to go? And he's going to stay. I don't even think he's going to sign a new contract because he just signed a new contract last November. So I think this is going to die down once that court case goes down, and he'll probably get a 23-month charge that will be paid off in fines like Messi got his 22-month. So I think it's all going to work out in the end, and he's going to stay in Madrid. I think Morata is going to go because Ronaldo doesn't like Morata, and that's Zidane and Ronaldo FC.
Well, and also, like, you know, United miss out on Griezmann. They got some splash. They got some cash to splash. Like, fits.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to get Ronaldo.
No, he's a physical enough player. I think he's particularly inconsistent, and I don't think a lot of people really realize that. And I don't think he brings people into the play as well as other people his size and other people his price tag. Like for me,
it costs like £80 million.
Yeah, well, you know, about from 60 to 80, and like so would Lukaku. And for my money, Lukaku's a significantly better player in every department, and he's proved it in England, and he speaks English.
And I think Aubameyang's better than both of them.
It's really interesting, just not really that much of a diversion, but a quick diversion. It's really interesting to see that he has such strong links to PSG. When he's actually come out and said he wants, the only club that he would want to go to would be Real Madrid, because he promised his father on his deathbed that he would play for Real Madrid as his next, or eventually in his career. So keep tabs on that. I think there's a lot of rumors flying around about Balotelli coming in to replace Aubameyang, and I think a lot of moves going
Which
around
I think
are
makes
a
a lot
little
less
bit
sense now that Lucien Favre is not the Dortmund head coach. I don't think that's going to happen.
No. It was a lot of, yeah. So we'll see how it all works out. I think a lot of transfers are going to be codependent for the next couple of weeks, because a lot of the early business, like Pickford and Klaassen going to Everton, was pretty well planned out. Like I saw reports coming out in May saying that they're going to move for those 2 players.
Also, real quick aside, don't like that Klaassen deal.
He scored a lot in Eredivisie, but in the end it is Eredivisie, so it kind of shows that he's a mobile player and he has a good foot to him. But I don't.
All the Ajax players, he's not the one I would have bought.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and they definitely paid, not through the nose, but they definitely paid. They could have gotten Sigurdsson for that price, and we'll see how it works out. I think the Pickford deal will work out in the long run, because in the end, this is kind of a 10-year plan with him. But I don't think you can compare the stat sheet that he will have at the end of next season to the stat sheet he had last season, because it's just a whole different dynamic when you're playing at a bottom feeder club where you need to make 10 saves a game, and you're into it every second, whereas at Everton, like someone could just break and you need to be right there right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. All the best luck to the kid. Club record fee on him, £30 million reported. Definitely going to be interesting to see how that works out. I think Everton and AC Milan have both done really good business, and you generally see that with clubs in some respects, people who get their shit done right away and they know what they want and they go and get it as soon as they can. Generally, those transfers work out a little bit better. We kind of saw that at Spurs with Sissoko. Not the best look there.
Compared with Wanyama, who came in at the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Like Pochettino walked into what's his name? David Levy. What's his
Daniel Levy.
Daniel Levy. Pochettino walked into Daniel Levy's office in the middle of March and said, "Hey, we're buying Wanyama. Like, you can either sack me or give me him." And I think at Sissoko's deal was more of a we have £30 million to spend. What do you want to do with it, guys? Kind of an issue. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of this is going to heat up. July 1st is when the global or the European full transfer market opens up. So I think we'll see a lot more moves there because teams are generally more encouraged to do it than now, because technically you can't register players yet. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the Chinese Super League, if I'm not mistaken, ends soon-ish. So it's
although I don't think you're going to see a ton of Chinese moves because they just imposed a really punitive tax on any incoming transfers.
Yeah, and they also
essentially like between 1.5 to doubles the price of a player coming in.
And they also brought the number of foreign players down from 4 to 3.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on there.
Will that stop them from buying Diego Costa? Probably not.
Honestly, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see as transformed of a Premier League, if that's the eye we want to cast to this at the start of next season, because last season was definitely a season of a lot of change. We had Mourinho and we had Pep and we had Pogba and we had Zlatan and we had this, that, and the other. Man City bought like an entire starting 11, and it's going to be interesting to see.
They're going to buy another starting 11.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they buy an entire back four. So and that's back to the original premise of the show, transfer sources. It's like when people were linking Zlatan to LA, it made sense kind of because it's Zlatan and it's Hollywood, but they don't need strikers, and B, like everyone who spoke about who I'm knowledgeable about LA said LA has no interest in him. So it's definitely not a terrible idea to look at certain clubs' ins and outs when you read a story, because like when I saw the Caston rumors, I was very confused by it because they have Ross Barkley, and that in generally kind of feels like a prelude to an out. So we could be thinking Ross Barkley leaving. I know Gareth Barry's
your guy, not just Spurs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see there. They're kind of spending money like they already sold Lukaku as well. And that boy really just needs to move on. Everton are not going to get him Champions League football that he needs. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. And in the end, I'm just excited for another 3 years when AC Milan can't pay these debts and crumble again, because they are spending money like it's going out of style.
It's happening. Quick shout out to a couple of the best deals that have either happened or will soon happen. Harry Maguire to Leicester for £17 million and Will Hughes potentially to Watford for £5.5 million. That would be an excellent bit of business for I'm blanking on the animal, but for the moose, the meese,
the Hornets, and then it's the Hornets, and then it's also a moose.
Okay, well, whatever the fuck Watford is, we'll have Thomas Moquette.
Yeah.
At us probably after this and tell us everything that I fucked up. But great bit of business if they do capture Will Hughes.
Yeah, great
What's
bit of
up?
business. Great bit of business. Great price. A little weird that he's going to Watford, but we'll see. I think Watford's going to be a little bit of a stepping stone for him because he has been touted as, you know, one of England's next great midfielders for about 3 or 4 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops out of the championship, out of that Derby side. Because I know his contract's expiring in like about 2 years, 1 year, something like that. It's not a ton of time left on him, so that price tag isn't as shocking as it could be. Um,
A
and
good
yeah,
deal for Marco Silva to move on quick, though.
yeah, without a doubt. And
Friend of the pod, Marco Silva.
yeah, yeah, big fans of Marco Silva over here. And then as well as Leicester's pickup of Maguire, who is really weird. He's kind of a Manchester City type defender. Like he had one of the best defensive durable. He's best one of the. Maguire had one of the best dribbling rates of any defender in the Premier League. He does well of stepping up. It's going to be really interesting to see how he does at Leicester with Robert Huth and Wes Morgan, two of the slowest, dirtiest, most 1970s defenders who've ever, won a title in the 21st century. That's going to be an interesting.
For those guys almost matches his hatred of Lee Nguyen.
Oh God, Lee Nguyen and Breck Shea. I just don't think of any. I'm sorry, this is kind of a Twitter beef.
Yeah, this is. Maybe we should save it for later.
We'll cut that.
We'll cut that bit.
I'll cut my explanation. Yeah. Any closing words? Just kind of wrap this fucking mess up.
Real quick, shout out. I'm going to redo the fathers and pride bit here. Shout out to all the fathers listening to this show. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to my dad, who I know for a fact will not be listening to the show, but is an amazing dad all the same. And also happy Pride Month. It is Pride Month. We're halfway through to our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, asexual allies, intersex, pansexual, queer questioning, anything I forgot, please forgive me. Happy Pride Month and best wishes from Point to the Spot. Reed, where can all our listeners find you on social media?
At That One Kid Reed.
And you can find me at Andrew Ball, BAHL. If you want to find Jack Kelly, even though he has not found us in some time, at actual Jack Kelly on Twitter. And if you want to find the show at Point to the Spot with the numeral 2, you can also find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere that podcasts are sold. We will have a midweek pod, I believe, Reed?
Yes, Jack needs to be baptized back in.
Indeed. And next week, coming at you a week from today, the show might not be up a week from today. We'll see. We will have our good friends at Firebird Rising, I believe, is the blog. I just see them on Twitter and read their stuff, so I can't remember the name. But talking about the expansion potential of Phoenix and Phoenix Rising FC. It should be a good time in the land of the sun and Drogba now to hear from our friends down there about MLS coming to the desert. But for now, this is Andrew Ball and Reed Hammond signing off on another wonderful episode of Point to the Spot. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you on Wednesday.
It's going to be a bit of editing, but